I would regret if I didn't ask this, but I saw Dale from QuickBit in Regina ask the question about a hardware wallet. What's your personal take on the best hardware wallet? That's a question I get here all the time on the show. But what's like the consensus from the people you talk to, and what's your personal recommendation in terms of a hardware device for people?
It's super interesting. It's like asking the smartphone industry, oh, Apple or Samsung, like something like that. Obviously, it goes back to what is your self-custody solution, and that has to be something you really think about yourself. And there are many, even beyond, and I come back to your question later because I think it's important to talk about that first, the self-custody. Obviously, when you go ahead and think of like what self-custody solutions should I get, you have to consider so many questions, and you really have to think about it. That's Bitcoin. You really have to make the responsibility to yourself and not just outsource it. Not just don't just pay a small fee and outsource to some company that offers some nice thing. But there are so many solutions. There is, first of all, do I keep it on exchange? You shouldn't, but that's an option. There is, you can have it on a single hardware wallet, just like a Bitbox, a Treasure, a Ledger, whatever. Or do I have multi-sig? So do I combine multiple hardware wallets? Or some people just do it with their steel wallets and nothing else. Like you don't need the hardware wallet actually. Mm-hmm. If you're frank with that, but that's also very risky. Then there is collaborative multi-signature, where you have a fifth party, like you have 4 keys and someone is signing the 5th key, or you have 2 keys and someone is signing the 3rd key. I would never go with a solution where you have 1 key and someone else has 2 keys. That's too dangerous for me. Sorry, I just saw the chat and someone wrote Ghostwrite is ChatGPT. I love that. Might be. Sorry, back to the topic. So those are the options that you have. And so I would say if you have a significant amount of money, or let's start there. If you have a very, very insignificant amount of money, let's say 200 euros in Bitcoin, don't bother with buying a $100 hardware wallet. Like, why are you doing that? Just either keep it on a hot wallet on the phone or keep it on exchange, whatever you prefer. But don't buy a hardware wallet for 50% of your stack. Yeah, exactly. If you have, let's say, over $1,000 in Bitcoin, there's the moment where I would say start thinking about self-custody, start thinking about a single signature. And then if you really go above $10,000, and definitely if you come to the $100,000 mark, so like 1 Bitcoin and above, you don't have, like, if you have 1 Bitcoin or more and you don't have multi-signature, start thinking about it very hard if it's not an option for you. And yeah, if you have in the millions, then maybe multiple custodian solutions would be good, where you have a diversified portfolio of custody solutions. Maybe you have a multi-signature collaborative custody, you have a multi-signature yourself custody solution. There's a lot of advisors that you can buy in that help you along the ways. There's like literally a sea full of advisors. And yeah, so what's the best hardware wallet? I'm biased. I'm sponsored by Bitbox. So I don't feel like I can sit here and say, oh, I recommend Bitbox because I'm sponsored by them. But I only got into sponsoring because I used it myself. So that's my personal choice. But Treasure, for example, is a hardware wallet that has been battle tested the most. Has the longest history also. It's a great hardware wallet also. And there are many other ones. There's Coldcard. Then is the whole debate, do you want to have it air gapped or not? That's a deep rabbit hole, because some say, is there even something like air gapped, because you still have to exchange
still on the SD card. Yeah.
So that's still information from your computer to the hardware wallet. But obviously it's better than having the USB cable for a longer time in there. So there is so many questions and so many things in consideration of that. To answer your very simple question with a very long and complicated answer to that, go ahead and research and don't believe anyone. So there's so many people out there, and if you really research a lot, you have kind of this common sense of like, oh, this is something everyone says, or that is like that, and really just try it out. And what I also want to push everyone to do, if you have a custody solution and you decided on something, try out all the emergency things. Can you actually retrieve your hardware wallet with your backup? Can you do that? What if you have, for example, an advisor? What if your advisor is not available anymore? What if your phone is not available anymore? If your cloud accounts are not available anymore, your computer is all of a sudden broke. I don't know, everything at once fails all of a sudden. So how do you deal with those things, and can you actually retrieve your Bitcoin? So think about all the scenarios, and there is no solution that is 100% perfect. I worked before, now I'm fully in Bitcoin. I work only in Bitcoin, but before I actually worked in IT security. So I know firsthand, not one solution is perfectly safe. There will always be a small attack vector that
there's trade-offs, right, with everything.
Exactly. There's always a trade-off between because you can have like a multi-continental self-custody solution where there is in America a signing device, there is in Europe a signing device, there's in China a signing device, and you have like 7 continents, and you have like, I don't know, 5 out of 7 multi-sig custody solution. But how the hell are you signing transactions when you actually have to sign a transaction pretty fast? Do you have then friends there? Do you have to travel to all those countries? So there's a lot of questions involved with that. That's how there's not a if someone gives you a simple answer to that question, he might not tell the full story.
I think that's a perfect answer, and I try to kind of go through that in my own show every day when people are asking like Cold Card, Jade, Trezor. It's like everybody's different based on where they are, based on how much they have, based on their knowledge. There's so many factors involved there, and I think you hit it perfectly and said that you really have to look inside and figure that out yourself. And the web of trust, I think, has been a very big thing for me in Bitcoin, in terms of I'll watch somebody, and if I like the vibe, if I trust them, it'll lead me somewhere else. And that's kind of my web of trust. And if they're all talking about the same thing, the people that I trust, then it's probably something I should be either looking into, or, I can put a little bit of inherent trust, even though I'd like to verify myself. That's a good starting point for a lot of things. So that's a great answer, Robin. And I think that very useful for anybody out there who's going through this, because even if somebody's sitting on, you said $1,000 right now, but think about that 10x. Think about what that's going to be worth in 5 years. Or do you just want to have like a little device that you're plugging in your computer that you have I think of it like a suitcase full of cash, $100 million cash. Would you leave that laying around when you go to sleep, or would you invest a little bit of money and time to protect that? And, we're still at the very early stages where people just see this device and they don't really see what's behind that and that's holding, right?
And that's a great insight that I forget that I usually also tell in this thing. Treat your custody solution as if Bitcoin is 10x the value. So if you have, let's say, 0.7 Bitcoin, and let's say the value of that is, I don't know, $63,000, treat it as it would be $630,000, almost $1 million. How differently would you treat that Bitcoin right now? And I think probably half of the Bitcoiners would be like, maybe I would upgrade to some better system. Maybe I would rethink that security solution, because I think most of the Bitcoiners have a pretty weak setup. There are obviously the nerds. There are obviously people maybe that are publicly in Bitcoin that have like a higher incentive to really have a good setup. At least that was my motivation to really up my setup. I was like, oh, I'm publicly available to know that I'm in Bitcoin. I should really have a good setup, not because of image or brand. I should have a good setup because what if something happens? What if someone stands in front of my door and is like, hey, Bitcoin, please. I know you live here. I know you have Bitcoin, so please give it to me. I don't want to give my Bitcoin away. I want to have solutions for that. I want to have practices for that. So really think about your Bitcoin as if it's 10x the value.
Yeah, and I think that just going back to, you know, having that target on your back and having that kind of surrounding you there, I think that the one thing I always say is protect it like a bank. Like you know, the bank has security. They have cameras. They have Brinks trucks. They have people there. And I said, you know, with a bank, they have insurance. They're holding somebody else's money, and they're holding a fake money. You don't have any insurance for yours. You're protecting it for yourself, and you're holding something that's real. So banks have their security. You have to think even beyond that, right? And so, you know, I think that is something that everybody's going to be taking a little bit more seriously in the coming years. But anyways, Robin,